was by my hand.
It was by my hand.
It was my hand.
It was by my hand.
It was by my hand.
My hand.
My hand.
My hand.
My hand.
My hand.
My
My
hand.
hand.
It was my hand.
I nailed him there.
His blood is on my
His blood
hands.
is
It
on
was by
my
my
hands.
hand.
That should be my
His
cross.
blood is on my hands.
It was by my hand.
It was by my hand.
It was my hand.
It was by my hand.
It was by my hand.
I nailed him there.
My hand.
It was a snake that started it all, we know. The serpent who cost us all our place in paradise and drove us out into the wilderness. Another snake was used to help me understand. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, the teacher told me once when I had gone to him by night, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Standing at the foot of the cross, I see now what that means. My father was a strong and influential man. That is how we got where we did. And I, his favored son Nicodemus, well, I was not what my father wanted me to be. He tried to make me strong. You must become a Pharisee, my father said. I did. And then, with his money behind me, we must get you elected to the Sanhedrin. I was. But in all truthfulness, I was nothing like my father. Strong-willed, powerful, outspoken as a leader. No, the truth is that I avoided in any way possible any kind of conflict or confrontation. I found my security in just going along with the crowd. And as I now stand here in this crowd at the foot of the cross, I know who I am and what I am. A coward. I had the power and the influence. I had the voice, the opportunity to speak. I could have stopped this crucifixion. At least I could have tried. But they were like snakes in the grass. It was 3 a.m. when they called, the dead of night. Word came to me by a messenger already winded from running up and down the midnight streets of Jerusalem. A special meeting of the council, the Sanhedrin, he cried, and off he ran. That was illegal, and they knew it. We were not allowed to meet at such an hour. What could be so important to demand a breach of rules like this? I would object, I told myself as I came rushing in. And then I saw Jesus. But why was he here, hands bound? Where were his followers? I recognized him, of course, the teacher. I had seen him before. Once, as a matter of fact, and I realized that it was something of an uncharacteristic moment for me, when soldiers had been sent to bring Jesus to the council, and they came back empty-handed. I did, in a way, stand up for him. Does our law judge a man before it hears him? I asked. They turned on me and snarled, "Are you a Galilean too?" That was enough. It stopped me cold. I feared saying anything more. So now, before this illegal session, there was no way I was going to speak. No way. They already knew what they wanted, death, and they would get it their way. I watched and listened as Caiaphas, acting less like God's high priest and more like some crazed maniac, kept charging, kept probing, kept asking, kept accusing, searching for some way, some opening, someone to testify. But all to no avail, until in desperation, Caiaphas faced Jesus head on. Calling a halt to everything else, he cried out, "Enough of this. There is really only one issue at stake, and it is simply this. Answer me under oath to the supreme God of Israel and tell us, are you the Son of God as you have claimed?" The silence was heavy, as if it were waiting to crack under its own weight. For if he answered yes, he would die as a blasphemer. They waited. And into that silence he proclaimed, "I am." As I looked up at him, hanging there upon the cross, his words came rushing back to me. That night, over a year ago, under the cover of darkness, I had crept up to his rooftop to talk with him. I had heard so much that puzzled me, and I had to know. He sounded like one from God, but what did that mean? And what did he mean as he spoke to me, born again, water, and the Spirit? Some things he said have now become quite visible to see. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. And that glorious promise, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him. I once was blind, but now I see. And what I see is how foolish I was to cringe here in pain over my cowardice for not trying to stop the crucifixion. He did not want me to save him. He came to save me, and all who would believe in him, that the world might be saved through him. The time for silence is over, the time for fear and cowardice. For such he died. Now is the time to speak. What you have seen in secret, proclaim openly, he said. I called on him in secret once, in darkness and fear, in arrogance and ignorance. You must be born again, he said, of water and the Spirit, born again. I am. And that is why I now am bold to speak. The serpent will not have the final word.
It was by my hand.
It was by my hand.
It was my hand.
It was by my
It
hand.
was by my hand.
My hand.
My hand.
He died for my sake.
He died for my sake.
In my place.
He died for my sake.
He died for my sake.
He died for me.
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 For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him might not perish, but have eternal life.